Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Here's what we're working on tonight on Now. First, we all know that last night the Oxford County Sheriff actually resigned. Tonight, for the first time, we're going to hear from his second in command and find out what happens next.
All right, this story has a lot of you talking as well. Yesterday, Jerusalem officially recognized as the capital of Israel. We'll have that story. We'll have a guest in studio to talk about that as well. Also, a former athlete, big-time athlete here in our state, has come up with a creative way to connect teachers and volunteers with each other. We'll tell you that story.
This is News Center now.
It's a rough time. We've got to get through it, but we're going to get through it together. So.
Upheaval in the Oxford County Sheriff's Office after its leader steps down following sexual harassment allegations. Hey everybody, I'm Lee Goldberg.
And I'm Christina Rex. Oxford County is looking for a new sheriff after Wayne Gallant resigned from the position last night amid allegations he solicited sex from at least one of his employees and sent inappropriate messages.
Now, for the past couple of weeks, the Sheriff's Department and many involved in the investigation would not give out any details about it. Tonight, we have team coverage of the developing story. Chris Costa joins us now. And Chris, today, the first time anybody from the Sheriff's Office has really commented about this.
Yeah, Lee and Christina, the second in command, Chief Deputy Hart Daly, is now taking over the former sheriff's responsibilities. He told us today that these past 2 weeks have been a whirlwind, but now he's focused on regaining the public's trust.
I was dumbfounded. I was upset.
Chief Deputy Hart Daly describes the moment he received a call from former Sheriff Wayne Gallant.
So I was as blindsided as everybody else.
Daly says Gallant called him 15 minutes before news broke that he had sent photos of himself exposing his genitals in uniform.
It put a black eye on our agency.
We tried to reach Sheriff Gallant at his home, but got no answer. Now Daly said the department has the tough job of trying to regain the public's trust.
And it's really tough for my deputies to go out there and put on a professional face and continue on in the face of that kind of adversity. I want the public to continue to trust them, that their complaints will be handled and their investigations will be done competently and professionally.
A union member that represents the Sheriff's Department accused Daly of knowing about Gallant's alleged behavior and ignored it. Daly denies that and says had he known, he would have brought any complaint to the Attorney General.
So that, no, I didn't condone that, and I would have allowed them to investigate the matter. But I certainly wouldn't have turned a blind eye to it had I known.
Daly says if he is appointed interim sheriff, he'll make sure the entire department goes through a thorough sexual harassment training in addition to the already annual training.
It's not condoned. It's not going to be accepted here. It won't be tolerated here.
Now he will try to right the ship as the department moves on from these allegations.
So we're gonna put our chins up and move forward.
We asked Chief Deputy Daly if he felt there may be other deputies engaging in similar inappropriate behavior. He says he does not believe it's a rampant issue and it will not be tolerated. Daly also told us that he has had no talks with former Sheriff Gallant at all in regards to the facts or the truth behind any of these allegations.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Chris. Now, while Chief Deputy Daly might be taking on additional responsibilities for now, that could change in just a matter of weeks.
So what happens next in the process of replacing Sheriff Wayne Gallant? The governor holds the power, but community members will have a say.
We've actually had a number of calls here in the last couple of days, last 24 hours, complimenting the commissioners on what they did. I think there's also a sense of regret for Sheriff Gallant's actions, but they also understand that he's done a lot of good things in Oxford County.
County commissioners and administrators are done with their investigation into Sheriff Wayne Gallant, and now it's up to the voters and ultimately the governor to replace him.
Which is no easy task, you know, especially this time of the year. It's Christmas coming up.
The first step will be special caucuses. Voters in 39 towns will help narrow down a list of possible candidates. Then the Oxford County Democratic Committee will submit a list of at least 3 names to Governor LePage. Chief Deputy Hart Daly hopes he's one of them.
I hope it's me that they choose. I mean, realistically, I have been running the agency day to day for the last 5.5 years. So it would be a smooth transition.
Daly is not guaranteed to finish Gallant's term or even be a candidate, but the Democratic Committee chair says it's likely he'll be in the running.
That's up to the caucuses. You know, that's there'll be names I'm sure we float around, you know, suggestions maybe, but the caucuses really make up that. And I imagine he would be.
Lastly, Governor LePage has to choose an interim sheriff from that list of candidates.
It's an unfortunate. He's resigned. We're moving on.
Until I'm either asked to leave or asked to stay, I'll just do my job and keep the agency running as effectively as I can.
Governor picks as interim sheriff will only work that job until November, when a new sheriff is elected. Those we spoke with today say there's no timeline for exactly when that process will be complete.
All right, we are turning our eyes to the skies. It's been calm for a few days, but couldn't help but notice the chatter about this weekend. They're getting a little excited over there.
I drove through some snow today.
What?
Out in Oxford County.
What? Yeah, there was
flurries.
some snow out there and some sleet as well. You get to take the echinacea stuff. Your throat's sounding a little.
It's snow that makes me
You're so
allergic.
excited.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, a couple snow showers still out there drifting into the mid-coast and into New Hampshire. This actually has its roots, believe it or not, in lake effect snow way to the west. Take a look at the wide span here. And these plumes of snow are so good coming off Ontario that they're kind of getting diffused and shotgunned into the atmosphere. That's why we have a couple of flurries. Those will die down tonight, and most of tonight will be quiet. And most of tomorrow, same deal. Partly cloudy conditions, isolated flurry in the mountains, but nothing to write home about. Temperatures in the mid and upper 30s for highs on Friday, probably starting a little sunnier than we end. And then overnight clouds start rolling in on Friday night, more so though into Saturday. After that, a storm system is knocking on our door for Saturday night and into Sunday. That storm system is actually way down here across parts of the Gulf Coast states right now, and there's some snow across Texas, which we'll talk more about in just a few minutes. But guys, this is the root of a storm system that is moving in for Saturday night and Sunday, and it does warrant, as Lee alluded to, a snowfall map that we'll have a look at in a few minutes.
All right, Casey, thank you very much. Coming up, Palestinians are furious with President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Clashes on the West Bank are increasing, but how are community and religious leaders in Maine reacting to the news? We'll hear what they have to say.
Then a war and terrorism expert will let us know how this could affect peace negotiations in the Middle East. All that coming up on Now. Today, Mainers are weighing in on President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It's a decision that pleases some and angers others.
News Center Tennyson Coleman spoke to some people here in Maine about the latest on this conflict in the Holy Land.
It is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
President Trump's decision Wednesday to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel has sparked more controversy in the Middle East. In Maine, the response to the announcement, which goes against decades of U.S. policy, varies.
I think the decision is both unintelligent and yet, from the perspective of those of us who really care about Palestinian rights, it's very useful.
Bob Scheibel is the director of Maine Voices for Palestinian Rights. He believes President Trump's decision will actually increase sympathy for the Palestinian cause.
This move by Trump puts the world's eyes on the Palestinians and that struggle. Donald Trump is a very unpopular world leader. So this decision further isolates Israel with the United States.
But Rabbi Bill Seamers with Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor downplayed the impact the decision will have.
I mean, the reality is that Jerusalem has always been Israel's capital. Since the founding of the government, that's where the government has been.
Saying it just maintains the status quo.
I think that it's more neutral than something that's going to aggravate the situation or something that's going to advance the situation.
I've heard some Palestinians have said, so what? We already knew this. But I also know from looking at the news that there are Palestinians who are upset by this, who are protesting it. And what my fear is, just immediately, is that this is going to further encourage some of those violent and extremist Israeli youth.
As the conflict in the Middle East takes center stage once more. For News Center, I'm Tennyson Coleman.
And here with us now to talk about this historic decision is Colonel David Hunt, a war and terrorism expert. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yeah, so, I mean, there has certainly been belief for centuries that there will always be conflict in that region of the world. Does the decision yesterday make a difference, in your opinion, as to whether or not there's going to be violence there?
It guarantees violence, more violence. What we have a tendency to forget, because everything since 9/11 is everything since 9/11, is that before that, before we were attacked, the nexus of terrorism, the centerpiece, was the Palestinian-Israeli issue. All terrorism flowed from that. The decision made by the President of the United States is just put that in the same box now as Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria for us and our military who've been fighting this for 17 years. This is a tough decision. It also takes us off the table as a negotiator. We've absolutely chosen sides, and now the Palestinians who want East Jerusalem as their own capital they will not even talk to us. There's not a country in the Middle East that agrees with this decision, and not a country in Europe that agrees.
As you mentioned, Palestinians not happy. They were quick to protest this move. There were clashes with Israeli security forces in the West Bank, and many shops and businesses were closed to allow more time for protests. Can these protests be peaceful, or should we expect them to escalate at this point?
They're not peaceful. No, they're not peaceful now. What you're talking about, contact, was in southern Israel. Palestinians shot rockets. The Israelis shot tank rounds. So we've had a tank battle and a rocket battle today already in southern Israel. This will be a violent protest. Once again, everybody in the Middle East says no to this, and Europe. We are alone on this one on the stage, and it did not have to be done.
All right, President Trump was clear yesterday saying this is going to help peace negotiations. Listen to this clip from yesterday.
This decision is not intended in any way to reflect a departure from our strong commitment to facilitate a lasting peace agreement. We want an agreement that is a great deal for the Israelis and a great deal for the Palestinians. We are not taking a position of any final status issues.
So the president says we're not taking sides. I feel like you've already answered this. You certainly don't agree with that part.
It's absolutely picked a side. I mean, you have to understand, they're our best friends. Israelis are our best friends. I personally have a great affection for the military and the intelligence community. A great, great country. But if you're in the middle of a negotiation, which they want a two-state solution, and you, the negotiator, just said, oh, by the way, Jerusalem, which is seriously in contention, is now Israeli capital, which no one's going to argue on the Jewish side. The problem is we are now taking ourselves off the table.
All right, so let me ask you one more question. The Palestinians are not happy. Not even everybody on the Jerusalem or Israel side of this is terribly happy. Is anybody overly happy with this decision?
The United States likes it, and there's some very big-time supporters, money supporters on the Republican side who wanted this. But this guarantees a violent reaction, and which we will have little control.
All right, Colonel Hunt, thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Now, during the commercial break, we want you to join us on Facebook Live. If you aren't logged in already.
Yeah, we're going to keep Colonel Hunt around a little bit longer to talk about this and moving the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And always, we want to hear your questions and comments that you have as well.
And also coming up, some teachers could use an extra pair of hands in the classroom. So a Mainer is launching a new software to help get volunteers matched up with schools. That story's coming up.
And enough with the rain already. Where's the white stuff? It could be coming. We'll chat with Keith in a little bit.
School teachers are always looking for a little more help in the classroom. I know because my parents have used me my whole life as the extra help in their classrooms. At this point, adults are signing up to volunteer.
So you were helpful in a classroom?
I was, like an assistant teacher.
I would not have thought that. Now there's a man from Maine who has come up with a pretty easy way to match educators with the helpers that they're looking for.
Get set, go. Oh, go Silas.
Simon Williams knows what it's like to be on a team. The former Portland Bulldog is also a former UMaine Black Bear and a former member of the St. Louis Cardinals organization. After his baseball playing days ended, Williams joined the Peace Corps, spent a few years in the Ukraine where he dove into education, and he found out what teamwork is like in that world.
And the school was the heart of the community, and it's where its people connected. And so the big kids were working with the little kids, the grandmas were connecting with the lunch ladies, school events were attended by all, and it was like, this is how all schools should be.
Simon says that's when he came up with the idea for School Square. It's a system that would pair teachers in need of classroom help with volunteers willing to chip in. He began a Kickstarter campaign to raise $25,000 so he can apply for a matching seed grant through the Maine Technology Institute.
This platform has the ability to register, vet, connect, and schedule the volunteers with the classroom teachers. And so the money that we're trying to raise would go to building this next prototype that we would launch in school systems in Maine. Come on, come this way.
There has been so much success in the world of matching supply and demand with things like dating sites, Uber, Airbnb. The recipe for success is in place.
So there's concept that really works. And so can we take this concept and use it for public schools and match the volunteers with the teachers?
Now, if School Square does become a thing, schools would license the software to support the connection between schools and their communities. For more information about the program and how you can help, just go to the Now section of our website or mobile apps.
All right, so at this time of year, we might expect to see some flakes, but people in Texas are literally freaking out about snow. These photos come to us from our media partners in San Antonio. They accumulated just about an inch or two, but people were out trying to build snowmen and having snowball fights.
When I first moved to West Virginia for my first job in broadcasting, it snowed 3 inches. The state shut down. They didn't have plows.
West Virginia, really?
Yeah, and they had to wait for it to melt before anybody could go anywhere because there was no way to plow it or get it out of the way.
Whereas here in Maine, you know, we walked to school
Not
up hills both ways,
right.
in a foot of snow on our
San
hands.
Antonio is on the southern side to get significant snow. We're actually Brain Drops is about that tonight. How often it snows in the south.
Foreshadowing.
Theme show.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. In the meantime, we have more than that amount of snow coming here, and I assure you no one will be freaking out about it.
Okay, good.
But they definitely won't remember how to drive.
No, yeah, that's true.
We know that is
as
true.
always.
To your point, Lee, they did statistics on Wisconsin and how many accidents they had. 1 inch and under, there were 4 times as many accidents as over. So, yeah, it does definitely happen. There's a couple of snow showers out there right now, all from lake effect. It's kind of shotgunning across northern New England, giving us a couple of snow showers and some sleet. Not a big deal, and it'll settle down tonight. After that, tomorrow is a decent day, I think very similar to today. Partly cloudy conditions, temperatures ending up right around 40 degrees for a high, and then waving back down on Friday night. Clouds start moving in on Saturday, and I'm going to cut this particular model off here on Saturday morning because it makes no sense for Saturday night and into Sunday. So we're going to switch over to the European computer model, which shows us this storm system moving in. That, by the way, is the same storm we just showed you down across Texas. It works its way all the way through the Atlantic very quickly, and it's here by Saturday afternoon. Little rain at first. We break into snow, though, by Saturday late in the day into the evening. Heaviest snow is overnight into the early morning hours on Sunday. A little rain mixes over down East Maine, snowing still at least lightly on Sunday through midday, and then it moves out on Sunday afternoon. So relatively quick hitting storm system. This is our first shot at numbers here. 3 to 5 inches looks likely in the shaded blue here. Notice I kind of cut the corner here over the mid-coast into coastal down east here, because I think we'll see a little mixing. The jackpot is likely to be just away from the coast where they're not mixing. May extend into Bangor. We're going to obviously continue to evaluate the data as it comes in, and then lesser amounts in the mountains. The high terrain here, say above 3,000 feet, will probably pick up 3 to 6 just because of the elevation. But this is what we're thinking for snowfall amounts. And if it wiggles west again, they'll go up. If it wiggles east, they'll go down. But this seems like a good compromise at the moment. But wait, there's more. On Wednesday, a much bigger storm system and a setup that I like a lot more. So you probably shouldn't like. Big low here, a lot of cold air here. I think this storm has potential to be a much bigger event for us next week. So there's a lot of snowy icons on this there map. Again, Saturday night, I still think for most of us, falls into the range of manageable. It's not, I don't see snowfall rates being excessive. You know, if you end up with 3 to 5 inches, it's pretty manageable. It might be the first plowable for some of us. Yikes. And then again, Wednesday has more potential, but it doesn't mean that it's set in stone. But the setup of that storm is more agreeable to bigger storms.
Okay, do you know all I hear in my head when you talk about this?
What?
Dun, 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 dun. And I'm just imagining myself
Oh,
outside.
the Storm Center.
So cool.
Yes.
I'm
Can't
picturing
wait.
the News Center
It took
Now
me a
team coming
minute.
to my house to help me shovel.
Aren't
Yes.
you happy that it's
Teamwork.
Saturday too? So.
Teamwork.
It's
Okay,
awesome.
thanks, Keith.
Yeah,
Teamwork.
no
See you guys
Lee, I have
on
a question.
Sunday morning. Yeah.
Did 2017 feel like a green year to you?
I'm wearing green right now.
There
so
you go.
Obviously.
Duh, because Pantone, the official color institute, named 2017 the year of greenery, symbolizing new beginnings. Well, Pantone has announced the official color of 2018, and it's ultraviolet, my favorite color. They predict a year of originality, ingenuity, and visionary thinking. And they think ultraviolet represents that well. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm all in on the ultraviolet color, so that works for me. All right. Let's see what's coming up on News Center at 5:30. First of all, it's the future of the racetrack that's been up in the air for years. It always seems that way. People in Scarborough might soon learn what's eventually going to happen to harness racing at Scarborough Downs. We'll get you those details in the next half hour.
And Governor LePage says the Washington Post is spreading fake news about him, what he says about a potential Senate run coming up.
News Center Now continues after the break. All right, ultraviolet, the color of the year. Keith, you've got a little purple going on in the shirt. We got these shades of purple in the.
Yes,
I mean, you're clearly
50 shades of
okay
purple.
with ultraviolet.
Yeah, I'm good with. I like green too, though, but I can't wear it on the green.
Well,
screen.
you just like money.
Do you want to do 2017 again?
You just like
Yeah.
money because it's the color of green.
Right.
It's a good year for you.
Why are you gonna make this about me?
That was
Okay.
too far.
This Texas snow. This Texas snow. A lot of people want to, how often does it snow in different places? A couple of surprising spots here. It doesn't snow that much across southern Texas, which is what we were looking at, San Antonio. Northern Texas I've seen get 8-9 inches of snow because they're not that far from Oklahoma. Panhandle gets it sometimes. Arizona, Flagstaff, over 100 inches of snow a year. So those some places you don't think about. It's a huge difference. You remember, several years ago, every time you see snow in the South, you think, how are they freaking out? How is it so bad? These are pictures from 2014 in Atlanta when they had 1.5 inches of snow and what they called snow jam. People were stuck in their cars for 14 hours. But look at the roads. Does that look like 1.5 inches of snow in Maine? There's no salt. There's no plowing.
No, it looks like an ice rink.
It's an ice rink.
Yeah.
I saw people slide sideways into each other at a stoplight. They just went.
So are they just not prepared?
They don't have the equipment, and what this makes you realize, if you don't already, is how much our public works crews save our butt every time there's snow. Because this is another shot of Atlanta. This is Midtown Atlanta during this storm. It's like The Walking Dead. There is no one there. It's all an ice skating rink. So it doesn't snow much in these parts, southern Texas, Georgia, but when it does, it's a different ball game because they don't allocate the money. It's not worth it.
So we owe a big thank you
For the
to
plows.
our public works.
I think
This
that's
is
obvious.
we look better than this with 24 inches of snow.
This does leave me with one obvious question, though.
What's that?
Does it ever snow in Hawaii?
It does.
Okay. News Center at 5:30. It's
Every
coming
year.
up right now.